Hello and welcome to my channel where it's Halloween all year long. My name is Lauren and in this vlog I am reading nothing but books revolving around Killer Klowns. So I just finished reading the prologue, which is the first 30 pages of this book, and holy shit. I've never read anything as intense as those first 30 pages of this book. So clearly Judah Sonnet is like setting the scene for what is to come, and I still am not too sure about the plot and like where it's going, but I typically don't pause this early in a book while I'm vlogging it to kind of talk about it, but like I had some feelings, and the beginning of the book was really clear on the sensitivity warnings and the triggers, and as I'm reading this book I am finding out new triggers and sensitivities I have. She mentioned that there was graphic scenes involving violence against children, and I found out that like I really don't like that. Like I could see where it was going. I just was like kind of briefly scanning through the rest of the book to see like which characters' names pop up, and I don't think the people in the prologue show up again because there's like one person that could possibly show up in the rest of the book, but they don't. So I think it's just trying to like set the stage for something, probably the clowns that they're going to be hunting or something. Judah Sonnet is not clowning around with this book. Like, I'm still shocked. I'm still reeling. Like, how am I supposed to go to bed tonight? Whew. I just finished The Clown Hunt by Judah Sonnet, and what the actual fuck? Okay, let me preface all of this by saying that this is my first extreme horror novel. I don't think I've read anything this intense ever before. I think the only thing that really touches this but not really ever gets as intense as this is going to be Cirque Berserk by Jessica Guess. First off, Willow, the protagonist in the story that we see the majority of events through in this plot, is such an anchor in this story. Like, you are totally rooting for them. They are a black queer man and they're trying to survive. And if you go into this book thinking it is all about killer clowns, which it kind of is, but like it really isn't, you're gonna be very disappointed. But I really did find that like what made this novel readable for me was Willow and their storyline and everything that he was going through and their resilience. Yeah, that's like the only way I was able to like finish this book, where I really was able to like ground myself, is like through the character of Willow. So thank goodness for Willow. I was rooting for Willow the entire time. I don't know if I really vibe with extreme horror. I guess I'm still like open to it. I don't think this is like shut the door on it completely. With all that being said, I really liked this. Like, I like it a lot. I don't think you're really reading this book for the sentence structure or like the syntax or anything like that. Like, the writing is pretty basic. I guess I would recommend this book to somebody that like really likes horror and like they like the more graphic things. Like if you're somebody that would watch Terrifier or you would watch like American Horror Story, like you probably would like this book and gravitate toward it. But if you're somebody who likes books that are a little bit more like atmospheric and creepy, I don't know if you'll really like this or be able to like sit through it, but I am glad I did, and I think this is a good first exposure to the like extreme horror genre. So I think this book has like opened up a larger conversation with myself about like what I'm comfortable with consuming when it comes to like the horror genre and what like I should probably steer clear of, despite the fact I might be super curious about that subject matter, it might not maybe be the best for me. My palette cleanser here is going to be Goosebumps Most Wanted, Nightmare on Clown Street by the iconic R.L. Stine. So I just finished Goosebumps Most Wanted, Nightmare on Clown Street by R.L. Stine. I love this book so much. I was hesitant to pick this one up and include it in my TBR, but I had picked up a few of these earlier this summer, other like Goosebumps books, and I was curious to see how well they stood up, so I was a little hesitant that this book was going to be too middle grade and not as sophisticated as I can really only read. Sometimes with a middle grade book, or even for elementary kids, I enjoy reading those stories, but if the writing style and the plot just seems too simplistic, it can't hold my attention over long periods of time. But I was pleasantly surprised because this is the first Goosebumps book I've read as an adult. I read these when I was very, very young, and I found the plot to be highly sophisticated, although the writing style is obviously not going to be Stephen King style. It is a plot that I thought was interesting, and the creep factor was definitely 10 out of 10 for this plot. This book follows Ray, who is a young boy, and he has an uncle, Theo, who works at a clown carnival. He goes to visit him for the summer, and things that he thought were true end up not being, and then he gets himself caught up in this whole other world, this whole other situation that he has to get himself and his uncle out of, and I thought it was very fun. And I liked the ending too. I thought it obviously wrapped up really quickly and did not provide a lot of complexity in terms of the ending, but that makes sense. It's a middle grade read. Elementary school kids could obviously read this too. But I found that there was the last page really creeped me out when you did not see it coming, and I thought it was a really fun way to end this book. The clowning will continue with The Cotton Candy Massacre by Christopher Robertson. The cover was what initially got my attention with this book. I'm only on page 20, so I haven't really gotten that far into it, but you do have some action already. It's a pretty lengthy book, and I want to make sure I finish it by the end of this upcoming week. It gets to about, 400 pages. Yeah, barely touches 400 pages. But this is an indie horror novel. So far, I'm really enjoying this. It's already action-packed in 20 pages. I like the tone of this, and just the way that the author is writing makes you feel like you're watching something on the screen as opposed to reading something. So it kind of twists the more conventional fiction writing into something that feels more so like you're watching a movie. It's not as intense as Judith Sonnet's The Clown Hunt, not yet anyway, so I guess we'll see when I get a little bit more deeper into the book. I have wrapped up The Cotton Candy Massacre by Christopher Robertson. I give this book a 4.5. The reason why I did not give it a full 5-star rating is solely because I thought that it was a little bit lengthier than I would have wanted it to have been, although the time that was spent to add more pages to this book, I think were well spent, so I guess it was not all for naught. It was really spent on building up the backstories of these characters, as well as the relationship amongst them, so that when people did die, you were kind of crushed. So the relationships were super touching and sweet, which I think added a really nice multi-dimensional level to a traditional slasher novel. I did take about a week to read this book. I have a full-time job and then a part-time job on top of that, so I don't have you know, loads of time to be reading physical copies of books. So every time I picked this book back up, I had to kind of refresh myself on which character had like which storyline and which personality, because they're all pretty distinctive. So that was kind of tedious at times. You really feel like there are these real life people that you are learning about and just kind of watching the movie of their lives. So I feel like my cons for the book are super minimal. And if anything, the cons always have like good things to them. So it's really funny. I kind of feel like this book like is the Goldilocks, like just right level of like horror and gore for me. I found this book to have the best tone of any book I've like read in a while. I thought it was very funny. The characters were saying such funny things. I also loved in the narrative you would have a lot of like song references, or like they would make song references in their actual like dialogue. It really gave the book a really like fun and unique tone because it is set in the 80s, and so you have a lot of like those 80s references that really kept you in that time period. You also have a really great storytelling element that Robertson was using, which is like kind of talking in the film scripty kind of way. There would be a lot of like split screen moments where it would just say like split screen to one person doing one thing and the other person doing another thing like at the same time, and it wasn't like done just flippantly. Like there was always like a purpose to it, which I found super cool. Like I've never really come across that in a novel. And there were also moments where he would write like cut to, and it would just you just really felt like you were watching a movie, but it didn't feel like you were reading a script for a film. There's a certain kind of like killer clown creature, I guess, for lack of a better term, that exists in this story, and I don't think that I've really come across any origin story of a kind of creature like this, and the way it in its own special way wreaks havoc on the characters in the story. So I thought that was really interesting, that I was just trying to figure out along with the characters how it even happened, and it makes me really excited to read the short story prequel. And when I mean short story, I mean like literally it's like 40 pages, like less than 40 pages. So I picked both of them up, and I'm glad I did, because as I was reading the book, I noticed that they are making references to this. It says Goons in Grease Paint, a short story prelude to the Cotton Candy Massacre. So they actually reference this as like one of the news anchors in the book, making reference to it. So I was like, oh, cool. Well, I can't wait to read this. So overall, a fantastic book. I found myself just really struck by how much I connected with these characters. My favorite character has to be Lee. I love the way that she would have like this really funny attitude, and like she was just such a badass, where she's just so fearless. Like I wish I was her character. I could embody her. If I was ever finding myself in the middle of like a horror movie, I would want to be able to just like look the killer in the face and just like say F you, and just have jokes coming out left and right. It's just been really cool to be able to see where my bandwidth is for certain genres of horror, and to figure out the kind of storytelling elements I resonate with and respond well to as I'm reading. So once I finish with the prequel here, I will make my way to the last book of this vlog, which is K.R. Alexander's The Fear Zone. So The Fear Zone is a middle grade read that is about a group of kids, about 5 of them. They go to a cemetery at midnight and they dig up a grave, and because of that, they like unleash some evil entity, and I think it takes different forms based off of what people fear. So it kind of gives me like the Harry Potter boggart creature vibes. So I don't think this one will take me that long. Whatever you're afraid of, it's coming to get you. I have wanted to open this box for like a month at this point. I'm a huge sucker for a theme, so when I was reading Killer Clown books in the month of November, I was like, oh, okay, well, I do need some new body products. What are some small businesses that I can support? Because I was in the market for some things. All of these are coming from Twisted Allure. This has not been sponsored. I purchased this with my own dollar bills just because I really love this stuff. So the first thing I got here is the Twisted Allure Clown Blood Wax Melts. These are in the scent of blue raspberry and cotton candy. Oh, I love it. I try to give you some cotton candy vibes with my outfit today. The packaging here is just the coolest because you have that like really scary looking clown on the front. I really needed body lotion because it is getting way colder here as we get into winter in California. And although it doesn't snow where I live, I get really dry hands. So I wanted something that was very much horror inspired, and I'm trying out Twisted Allure's Clown Blood Body Lotion in the same scent as the Wax Melt, which is blue raspberry and cotton candy. A little scent here. This one I smell a little bit more of like the cotton candy. And the same little Killer Clown is on the front. I'm trying out also their split scrub that they do. So you can see here how one side is going to be like a bright pink, and then the other side is going to be a really bright blue. These are just the brightest colors. Oh, this is so fun. I think it's the blue that is birthday cake scented, and the pink is cotton candy scented. And just like that, I am done with my Killer Clown reading vlog for the month of November. And I loved getting to finish off this reading adventure by watching Killer Klowns from Outer Space for the very first time. I absolutely loved it. It definitely lived up to expectations. I feel like it's a very beloved movie, and I think for a really good reason. It came out in like the late 80s, and it has all of the 80s vibes, from the aesthetic to technology to the soundtrack. I can't get the little jingle out of my head. I absolutely loved it. Like, just the bright colors, like you could smell the cotton candy coming through your TV. And one of my favorite scenes, and this is not like spoilery or anything like that, but there is like this popcorn gun that was shot by one of the clowns at somebody who's like trying to run away. And then they make with like a little balloon, they make like a balloon animal that turns into like a dog that helps them find and track the people that they're trying to get who've like escaped. I thought it was just hilarious. And then the last book I read was K.R. Alexander's The Fear Zone. I absolutely love this one too. I thought it was a very great way to finish off this vlog by reading something like this, because I did start off with like some really heavy books. Judith Sonnet's book, The Clown Hunt, was the most extreme horror that I've ever read, like in my entire life. Like, this book, I was thinking about it yesterday. Like, it is intense. But what I loved about The Fear Zone is one thing I really loved about The Clown Hunt, which is like the relationships between people who are going through like really intense, dire situations that are like really integral to the plot of the book. So The Fear Zone follows a group of kids, like 4 or 5 of them, who are like freshmen in high school, and then some of them are like in upper middle school, and they have to like really face their fears. And so the title here, The Fear Zone, makes a lot of sense when you get into like the nitty-gritty of the plot itself. And I really loved it. I thought it was great. Like, if I had a middle schooler in my life that I could give this to, I definitely would, because I think there's a really beautiful and powerful message about fear and how you like work through it. When I think about it, every single one of these books, any trial and tribulation that the characters are going through, they do not face alone. Like, they cannot face them alone. Like, they have to have their allies, and they have to have their people in their community that can get them through whatever kind of struggle they're facing, typically clowns. But so I think that's what I really loved about this reading adventure, is that all of these books that I read, in some way, shape, or form, the characters could not escape the situation on their own. Like, it's a really beautiful message in all of these books I didn't expect to encounter when I was really just kind of focusing on the killer clown trope, is to see like the importance of community. And I thought that was like super beautiful. So it's hard for me to rank these. I found them to be all amazing, entertaining, engaging in their own way. And so I don't think they fit like one perfect audience, because they're different ages that they are trying to cater to, and then also different like bandwidths of horror and like graphicness. So definitely like the most graphic book has to be The Clown Hunt by Judith Sonnet. Like definitely tread careful with this one, but I'm really glad I did try this one out because I think it gave me a really good understanding of my triggers and the things I'm sensitive about. The second most graphic book is going to have to be The Cat and Candy Massacre right here, but I think this is like just right, like the Goldilocks level of graphicness for me. And then also you have, it's like short story of like 40 pages right here that I found to be very entertaining. I read this after I read the big book here, and I think that's the perfect way to do it because you just, it's cool to see like who actually is featured in here, and I won't share anything about it because it's like super short. But I found it to be a fun read, and I'm really happy to support the author. And then I had my last two here, which were my like elementary and like middle grade reads here, which obviously didn't get into anything too graphic, but I loved the message of their fear zone here. I think it is important even for an adult like myself to be reminded of the power of community. So thank you for going on this journey with me as I explore one of my new favorite tropes, which is the killer clown. I hope you all are having a great November. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them, and I'd love if you had more killer clown books to recommend to me, or even movies. I'd absolutely love that too. So I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.